Take your girl brain off, because you can do that. When my hair is pink or purple, I have to remind people that I'm 45. I do think that as a woman, I bring a different skill set to the role than a man might have brought. Obviously you can do that, and I was thinking, can I? There were pricing people at Simmons a few years before I joined, but as they'd left, Simmons had not replaced them. And so pricing was being done sort of on the side of the desk of the financial analysts, and they had this whole other job that they were trying to do. So it had become very sort of partner-led with a little bit of help from finance around the numbers. And I had spent a year at Simmons on a maternity cover in business development and practice management. And the firm asked what I'd do if I stayed, because they wanted me to stay but didn't really have the right have a Verity shaped role. So I put together a paper for the managing partner and the director of business development at the time, to kind of create a team, starting with just me, of course, but eventually create a team that would bring pricing out of finance and sort of evolve it from that financial admin numbers task that partners really don't like, evolve that into something that is much more about effective commercial conversations that obviously involves the numbers, but really works at understanding what our clients are trying to achieve from the matter, and financially creating a pricing arrangement that helps them to do that, but is also profitable for the firm. My vision was that the pricing team would help the partners to deliver that message and have those conversations, either by coaching them or by stepping in and sitting alongside them to talk to the client. So I think pricing over the last few years at Simmons has kind of evolved to be much more client-led, client-focused, and just much more effective. I wrote the paper and put it to the managing partner, basically asking for a job, asking them to create a team. I'm really grateful that they put their faith in me and allowed me to do that. And it started as just me, and then about a year later, they allowed me to grow the team and bring on board a pricing manager, Giacomo Rossi. He's amazing. And then gradually we've expanded to the point where there's 4 of us now over the last few years. And so the firm has been really supportive, particularly the managing partner and the business development team. We have like a learning and development program, all sorts of sort of technical training sessions, but then lots of soft skill training sessions, which are good. And then individually you have a training budget, so the firm is quite supportive there. And I think in particular it's quite supportive of allowing people to move around into different teams and develop that way. I'm not sure there's many as a woman specifically at Simmons, because Simmons is really quite a diverse firm, and it's an unusual breed of law firm where everyone is just really nice and collaborative and pulling in the same direction. The main challenge I've faced, but I don't think that's necessarily as a woman, is just getting resources and working out where to spend your time, because it's a demanding environment, sometimes a slightly unforgiving audience, not because they're mean, but because the partners are under deadlines. But yeah, typically I think I've overcome that by just demonstrating the value that we can add. I do think that as a woman, I bring a different skill set to the role than a man might have brought. Typically, it's a massive sweeping statement, but I think that has actually helped with the development of the pricing team rather than being a challenge, because I think I've brought a different set of soft skills that perhaps a typical sort of finance background person might not have brought. I am always happy to go with no preconceived ideas. It may seem like I've not thought it through and I've not prepared, but actually what I'm doing is I'm working with the person collaboratively to brainstorm and to coach ideas out of them and then form my own as well. And I think that is quite a female trait, that I'm very open and I'm very happy to say when I don't know or when I'm wrong. And I think some of that is the environment that Simmons sort of has set up and created, that it is okay to not have the answer and to work it through together. I think it's fair to say I come from a family of quite strong women. My mum is quite a strong and confident character, and if you want something done, anything done, you give it to my mother, and it's even the most difficult task, it's done. And I have 2 sisters that are also amazing in different ways. So I think it's just bred in through our family to go out and get what you want. But in the work context, I mean, I've worked with lots of amazing women, not necessarily directly on the pricing front, but there's so many, you know, women leaders and women partners that I've worked with at the different law firms I've been at. And then my director at the moment, Barbara Hamilton Bruce, is an impressive woman and mentor too. So I think I've been pretty lucky. But having said that, I've also had a lot of support from some amazing allies, for want of a better word, male allies that have supported me. I think what firms need to start doing is they need to start considering development options for their people and working with their people on those development options, because I've had the experience of effectively being told, well, if you want to develop, you need to tell us how you think that can happen, and you need to create the next role or point out the next role for you to move to. Whereas often, actually, it's the senior people or the people above, however senior, within a firm that has a much better oversight of the different roles that somebody could move into. They have a much more objective view of the person's skill set. Women are much less likely to put their hand up and ask for development. They might see an opportunity and and ah over whether to go for it. In fact, actually, the other day, a really good friend of mine, we were talking about something. It wasn't necessarily a work thing, but he said something that stuck with me. He said, "You've got to take your girl brain off. Take your girl brain off, because you can do that. You just need to take away the doubt, remove your doubts, and just go for it." And I thought that was really interesting. That he had identified where I was being different to what he would have been in that scenario. I think that's true. I think men ask for promotions. And I think women expect people to see their value and reward their skill set. I'm not sure other women should necessarily follow my methods. Historically, I'm much better at it now. But historically, I've worked like a dog all hours, and it's not the way. I've always had sort of like home life, work life is just sort of smashed into the middle. And there's been times where there's very little distinction between the two, because I will be cooking dinner or putting my kids to sleep whilst working at the same time. So it's not a path to follow, and it's exhausting. Now I'm much better at it. Lots of people would say I'm still not very good at it, but I think I am much better at it. I am much better at sort of, you know, we work in an environment where everyone wants everything now. I am much better at saying, is it really now? Do you really need it now? Because actually my intention is to do it here, and I'll get it to you by then, and just set really clear boundaries and deadlines, so that they know that they're confident that you've got it in hand. You've told them when they're going to get it, and you're not going to let them down, but it might have pushed the deadline in their mind a little bit, but they're comfortable because they know that you'll meet that. There are some things that are just non-negotiable for me. I do a lot of running. I mean, I've less so over the last year, but I'm just getting back to it now that I've, you know, fully recovered from the stroke I had. But I typically put my training sessions into my work calendar as just something that cannot be moved. But I have learned to also take back time. You know, if I'm working really long hours, or I'm working in an evening, I have started to think it's okay for me to take a long breakfast, or it's okay for me to actually take a bit longer to start work in the morning. So I've started to balance it that way. Don't feel like you need to start at the bottom in pricing and work your way up through pricing. Because, I mean, I started as an underwriter of legal expenses insurance. I was a broker of litigation funding. I've then been head of business development and had those sorts of sort of sales and development roles, solution sales roles, loads of different experiences. I was sitting there one day thinking, what might I do? I pulled all of those different experiences in together, and I realized it had a pricing theme through it. So I think my advice would be, don't feel that you need to pigeonhole yourself into sort of finance or pricing early on. Go and get lots of different experience. And then my other advice would be, just make sure you're always thinking of pricing as a way to develop relationships, to win new work. It's not in a vacuum. It's not just the numbers. It absolutely is a core part of any business's strategy for winning work. I think I'd like my legacy to be to have contributed towards that sort of that mind shift within the legal field of especially amongst lawyers of pricing being a really uncomfortable topic that involves maths and is just numbers, that you just present your client. sort of changing the mind shift towards that effective conversations, effective commercial conversations, please. A lot of my focus, especially at Simmons over the last few years, and the plan going forward, is to really shift that mindset from financial admin, uncomfortable conversation, something none of the lawyers really want to do. Shift that mindset so that actually pricing is just a really integral part of how they present themselves to the client, of their commercial conversations with the client. I really believe that if you have these sort of transparent and collaborative conversations around pricing and value and what it means to the client and what they're looking to achieve, if you have that at the outset, it moves the conversation from transactional to collaborative, trusted advisor, and it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the work. So I'd like to have played a part in that change. Pricing needs to be seen as a specialism in its own right. It needs to be very much linked with the client side of the business. And I think historically it's been linked with internal back office. I think the more that it comes out of back office and is linked with clients, and I think the more that people start to, the people who are recruiting and building those teams start to move away from thinking you need financial qualifications and understand the soft skills that can really help in that role, I think that will help more women coming through. Increasingly important to have a solutions mindset, and I think with the impact of AI and the AI plus lawyer model, I think that's going to be more and more important. I think creating alternative fee arrangements that really play to the value that you're delivering is going to be vital. And on that same, well, I suppose on that same vein, I think understanding more about how lawyers are doing their work, whether that's AI supported or not, I think that will be a really important skill set to have coming through. Because if we're moving away from, an hourly rate times a person times the amount of time they're doing it, then towards something that is much more output based, I think that takes a different mindset, and learning to do that takes some time. So I think that's the skill set that women need to start developing. The main challenge is trying to help other people understand what it means when you say that you're leading a pricing team in a law firm, and even internally trying to have the management and the partners understand what value you can bring beyond just giving them the numbers, I think is probably the biggest challenge. It's been quite a receptive audience at Simmons, which is really good. I think we need to just talk more, be willing to share knowledge. I think when you identify someone or someone comes forward as having an interest in what you're doing, I think sharing knowledge, welcoming them in, answering any questions, helping them to understand, which of their skill sets they might need to develop in order to get there. It's the same for every industry, isn't it? It's just be supportive and encouraging, and generous with your time. I know Simmons is trying really hard to do better and have more female leaders, more partners coming through, but sometimes you hear that it takes time and there is less female candidates. I'm not bought into that, but I do think that Simmons is making a real effort. One of the challenges I have is that a lot of the pricing consultants, and actually a lot of the business development consultants, external consultants, are older men. And there's definitely some that I can see it in their face, I hear it in their voice, will be having they will ignore the fact that they know I'm head of pricing, and they will go to partners and ask if they want pricing workshops. And where we've had sort of group calls or meetings, and if there's somebody male and older, or typically a male partner in the room, I might ask the question, but you almost see them shift and answer the male partner, and it's much more noticeable when my hair is pink or purple. I feel I quite often I have to remind people that I'm 45, because the older men in particular are speaking to me as if I'm in my 20s and just a silly little girl. It's so frustrating. But you learn to deal with these things, don't you? And certainly if it's somebody who's touting for our business, it means they don't get it, because I like to think that, you know, internally I I've gained a lot of respect and influence, and I have a say in who gives things like our pricing workshops. I think I'd say go for it, be bold. I've taken quite a few risks. I've moved around to different industries. I left Herbert Smith Freehills to go to a firm that I'd worked at previously. It's called The Judge. It's a great firm, but it's very small, and I think that was quite a risk to leave, you know, a big established firm to go to a smaller firm with a lot more sort of autonomy. And then I think I took a risk, you know, coming back into Simmons, and then sort of putting my head up above the parapet and saying, I think I want to create a team that does this. It's risky on the one hand, but I think, you know, we can't always get what we want if we don't put our hand up and say that we want it. As long as you are prepared for people to say no, then I think it's fine to take a risk.